Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Blythewood Town Council meeting. Today is April the 27th of the year 2026 on a great, beautiful Monday. Time is 6:02 p.m. Ms. Durst, would you please?
Councilwoman Hovis. Present. Councilman Brock.
Here.
Councilwoman Fripp. Here. Councilman McKenrick.
Here.
Mayor Griffin.
Here, thank you. Was the meeting posted according to state law, ma'am?
Yes, sir, it was.
At this time, I'll be looking for a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
So move.
Motion made, with the second. Second, any discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Please join Councilman Brown with the Pledge of Allegiance and the invocation this afternoon.
Didn't even know I was doing this. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please join me for a brief prayer. Dear Father, we thank you for allowing us to gather today in this beautiful place on this beautiful day in the beautiful town of Blythewood. We thank you for the blessings that we have received. We thank you for the Easter blessing that you brought us. We thank you for protecting us. We thank you for giving us our men and women who serve in the military, our firefighters, our police, our EMS who are here in this county, in this state, who serve us every single day. We ask that you bless the town of Blythewood, the state of South Carolina, and the United States. In your name we pray, amen.
Little technical difficulty. Thank you, sir, for the pledge and the invocation this evening. We'll next start with council member remarks. I'll pause for any member that has any remarks at this time. Good. Thank you. We'll move on to the mayor's remarks. Just for the general public, Sheriff's Department Camp Lot is out. I had a couple residents contact me about that program. I sent them over to Lieutenant Acox for that program. It's a great program. So if you got some youth that is needing some correction, definitely sign them up for Camp Lot, which is coming up, and contact Lieutenant Acox for that. That ends my remarks. Be looking for a motion to approve minutes from the Town Council regular March 23rd meeting, Town Council special call meeting on March 30th, and April 22nd meeting.
Mr. Mayor, I've read through the minutes and they appear to be correct to me, so I'll make a motion to approve.
Thank you, sir. Second. Discussion. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Ayes have it. At this moment, we'll open for public comment. This portion of the meeting is designated for public comments as provided by the municipal ordinance. Public comments must be limited to the items on this agenda. Each speaker will have up to 3 minutes to address council. All comments will be entered into the official record, and no action will be taken during the hearing itself. None. As I always do, I'll pause for a few seconds. All right, Ms. Durst, close public comment at 6:06.
Mr. Mayor?
Yep.
I would like to add that Blythewood Historic Society is having 2 programs next week. Our Dr. Portia Days on Tuesday and Blythewood in the 1920s on Wednesday. And we certainly invite all of y'all to come out.
What time is that?
6:30 for both programs.
6:30 next Wednesday? Tuesday and Wednesday. Okay.
2 separate programs. Bob Wood, local historian and lawyer, will be leading the program.
Gotcha. Thank you. Any other comments? 6:07, Misters. Next item on the agenda is the board and committee updates. And we will start with the Blythewood Safety Task Force recommendations presentation. Ms. Hovis. Hold it.
Welcome, everybody. So tonight we're going to hear from the Blythewood Large Event Safety Task Force. We formed in, gosh, it was probably early February because, as you know, large events in Doco Meadows Park came to an end about a year and a half ago due to some safety concerns. Council voted to discontinue just that. As you've seen maybe on Wednesday, you came out and saw the farmers market in full swing and some other events that we've had. So we continue to have events, but this is specifically related to events such as Juneteenth and July 14th. So we had July 4th. We had volunteers, and some of them are here tonight, spend time together working out what we think would be the best approach to holding safe events that are family-oriented and that everybody can feel good about coming to. Of course, we can't guarantee 100% safety for any event, as you can probably look to the news at any point in time and see, but we've done our best to try to come up with some great ideas, and we've got some great members of the task force. I'm just going to introduce them really quick, if I may. So our chair is Zaire Collins. So Zaire, you can wave, okay? And then Aloysius Anderson and Caleb Thomas, and Catherine Porter, and Jeremy Carter. Chris, you're sitting back over there. So Chris Kiefer is also, yes, we have the, you know, the special folks in the front. That Barbara, that's why you're there too, okay? We are missing a few, and one is Shelby Russell. She's an attorney. She comes from downtown, and she has a heck of a time getting here just because of traffic, because she has a very busy job. And then also Kyle Brantley did some work with us, but he is on National Guard duty, so he's not here tonight. So what we're going to do is we're going to do a presentation, a PowerPoint presentation, and Zaire, our chair, is going to discuss what's on the PowerPoint. It's only 10 slides. It's really go by fast. And we would like to have council ask questions of the committee if there are questions that you have, and we would be more than happy to have you answer them. And perhaps, Zaire, you're going to be at the podium right there, so maybe you could just scoot aside if somebody wants to come up, because they always like for us to talk into the microphone, okay? So does anybody have any questions about that format? And thank you, Mr. Mayor, for letting me have the floor.
You guys have really stepped up and done a magnificent job with, yes. Still technology issues. But thank you to each and every one of you. That's not an easy thing. I said it to you all when I first met you at your first meeting. It's not an easy task, and I challenged you all to not be afraid to make decisions, not be afraid of, even if you heard it before, put it down again. It won't hurt any of our feelings up here. You are part of this community, and we're excited to see your presentation. And then afterwards, we're gonna shake some hands and really thank you and give you some things from our token of appreciation to you all. And then lastly, that door is always open. So this won't be the last time. But I do want you to understand something too. Don't feel discouraged if you don't see us take action tonight on items, okay? We want to give you guys the floor and be respectful to you all. Members of council may have some questions, but I am going to challenge myself and my colleagues here to be respectful to you because you guys put the time in. And if we do have some questions that we really need to kind of dive deep into, I'm going to ask you offline those questions, okay? And I'm going to challenge my colleagues to do the same thing, that come to you offline and ask you those real deep and challenging questions, okay? Can y'all agree to that? All right, so, sir, the floor is yours for the presentation. I yield to you, Mr. Chairman.
Excuse me, Mr. Mayor, just wanted to, I'm remiss in not introducing other members of the task force who are keeping a low profile in the back, but that's Master Deputy Sloan Simpson and Captain Gavin Wamsley from the Richland County Sheriff's Department, who served on this committee and contributed very much. Thank you.
Thank you. Floor is yours, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Mayor, before you get started, are you planning to go through the presentation and then come back for questions, or are you planning to pause as you go through each slide so that we could kind of ask questions as they come into our heads?
I'll probably pause after each
Okay,
slide.
cool, thank you.
All right, cool. All right, floor is yours, sir.
And also, if I'm incapable of answering your questions as of right now, feel free to ask to the rest of our committee. All right, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Zaire Collins. I'm the chair of this safety task force, and we have a couple of recommendations for you today. First of all, we'd like to kind of go over the scope and ability. So these recommendations, the following recommendations that we will set forth is, we have 5 recommendations, I believe. They will apply to town-sponsored events. So that means that if someone's having a wedding here at the manor, or if a church is doing an event at the park, that these rules won't apply to those events, those specific events. Next is the anticipated attendance, right? So we will get into how we will track this a little bit later down the line, but we say that if there is an event that has an anticipated attendance of 100 or more individuals, the following recommendations, following rules will apply. And we will go over those two in depth. Next, we have these next few rules will apply only to designated event areas. For example, if we have fireworks in the park, then the rules will only apply to that section in front of the amphitheater. And for example, the playground will be open to the public. And that kind of goes into the next bullet point as well. And it appears that you guys have the slide, so if you'd like to follow along. Next, we have events involving minors and youth participation. Because the youth is the crux of the problem, obviously these events will apply, or these next few recommendations will apply to those events where there's a lot of youth in participation. Next, obviously the town of Blythewood owns Blythewood Delco Meadows Park, so we will operate under this authority to regulate use of municipal property and public safety. Next, we will focus on administrative enforcement of existing ordinances, not new criminal penalties. Could someone actually elaborate on that, please? If anyone.
There was some discussion during our deliberations about the Richland County Sheriff's Department enforcing state laws within the park, and they still intend to do so when they're hired to do extra duty. But we also considered some of the possibilities of municipal codes or ordinances that may apply as well.
Thank you. And all of these following recommendations have also kind of been handpicked and kind of emulated from other large events, like for example, the fairgrounds, right? So you'll see a lot of similarities between these recommendations and what we do at the fair. Slide, please.
Yeah, I got a question, and
Go
Councilman
ahead,
Brock
Mr.
has a
Mayor.
question.
Go ahead, Mr. Mayor.
Could I get you back up? Yes, sir. Under the portion of the administrative enforcement of existing ordinances and criminal penalties, did you all examine the current ordinances that we have in place and kind of gauge some changes to that potential ordinance. And the reason I'm asking, because we did go back and change some things in the ordinance piece when it pertained to some updating, like the playground rules and those ordinance pieces, and then some penalties included into. But did you all go back and look at the ordinances that are existing?
The discussions that we had involved the difference between the two, how the Richland County Sheriff's Department could enforce the criminal statutes, but when it comes to the municipal ordinances, those would have to be enforced by the city, whether it be a civil penalty or
Okay.
if you have some criminal ordinances as well. And we can go further into that when we get to that section, because there is a recommendation that town code enforcement can potentially enforce some of those ordinances.
Okay, but you did not see any additions to the ordinance as it exists right now. So the items in the current ordinance, you don't have any like recommendations to change the existing ordinance, the verbiage?
No, we did not.
Okay, thank you. Councilman Brock.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. That was kind of a question that I was actually going to ask something similar. Did we need to revise or amend any ordinances? And if I'm understanding you, what you're saying correctly is that Richland County can enforce state law, but you can't enforce town law or town/park rules. Is that correct?
Yes, I would defer to the Sheriff's Department.
I think that is an accurate statement, which presents a little bit of a problem. Simply because if we've got a park rule that children 12 and under are allowed on the playground, and you've got a bunch of 15, 16, 17-year-olds out there harassing children, you can't do anything about it. So that's,
Yeah.
okay, well.
Go ahead
Okay.
and explain that. Yes, sir.
And I'll go ahead and address that now, but the criminal statute for trespass after notice for the state of South Carolina can be enforced. However, it's going to be up to municipal or Doco Meadow staff in order to enforce any ordinances. If they, for instance, if they come to one of the sheriff's deputies that's working extra duty and they say that per this ordinance, we are requesting that this person leave, then the sheriff's department can enforce the criminal statute for trespassing after
Okay.
notice.
But
They would not be able to enforce any penalty for the actual
okay,
ordinance.
but you know, if there's 75 people that fall into that category, it presents a little bit of a volume issue there. You just can't carte blanche trespass everybody that's over the age of 13 years old. I mean,
If there is an ordinance for the property, then the staff can enforce it, but,
okay, staff can enforce it.
right,
Okay, that's the distinguishing.
and they're gonna have to work in
Statement.
conjunction with the sheriff's
Gotcha.
department for any
Okay.
criminal penalties.
Okay, all right.
And
interesting.
yes, sir, sorry. And one last thing, you said it earlier, and I think this is a little bit of the confusion. When we hire deputies, and I said this in the past, when we hire deputies, they can enforce our ordinances because we hired them, so they can enforce what we have. And that enforcement piece is basically if we say we don't want anyone on the playground, what is it, 12, I think it's older than 12 years old on the playground, then we have to basically educate them on that ordinance that says no one over the age of 12 is allowed on that playground. But we also have to work with them on how to identify that.
Right, and that ordinance could be enforced at any time, even not during special events.
Yes.
However, the sheriff's department is not allowed to come in and enforce municipal ordinances, so they're gonna have to stick to the actual state statutes.
Statute.
So,
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
My main question, and this is not to use Zaire, and by the way, thank you. If I was a high school kid, there's no chance in hell that I would ever get up and do this, so kudos. I have high schoolers as a kid, but don't take offense to that word. Kudos to you for doing this and leading this task force, very admirable. My question is directed to you, but it is also for the group. Your second bullet point says, applies to events with anticipated attendance of 100 or more individuals. And the first slide says Blythewood large event. I want to focus in on the word large. So when you were constructing your recommendations, you gave no, this is probably not a fair question, but when I ask it, then we can discuss it. There's a major difference between a Movies in the Park, which probably draws 200 to 300 people at most, and Rockin' Red, White, and Blue, which would draw 6, 8, 10,000. So are the recommendations that you are going to recommend, I hate using the same word in the same sentence, does it distinguish between the two, or are you going to treat them all the same? Because if you do, it would seem, and I'm not trying to front run your recommendations, but there's clearly a difference between a 200-person event and a 10,000-person event. And so I'm trying to prepare myself mentally. Of the 5 people up here, I probably have the most experience in running events, since I've got 15 events under my belt that range from 3,000 people up to 10,000 people. So I know a little bit about what you're probably going to tell me.
I'll answer that.
Okay. Okay. I'm trying to prepare myself mentally to see.
And you're
if,
drilling down, and I appreciate that, but council has a lot of discretion. These are recommendations, and we did, first we said 200, then we said 300, then we said 500, then we said 50. So we didn't have a lot of data to drive our decision or our estimate, and that is, it's anticipated, and again, these are just suggestions, so it would be up to your expertise and everybody else is here who's got records of the type of events that we have and the foot travel, et cetera, et cetera. So I'm just going to say that we say 100, that was, I would call that a WAG.
Okay.
Thank you.
That's fair.
But yeah, that was exactly what I was going to say as well. It was, these recommendations are in fact recommendations, so it's up to you guys how you want to take them, how you want to implement them, whether or not they're feasible or not. It's completely up to you guys.
I guess, and this would be more so pointed to the officers in the back, is it scalable? Is that kind of the way you're going to look at it? Whereas if we're anticipating 300 people, we've got a plan, but we're going to say that it requires 1/5 of what an event 20 times that size would. So you scale it up based on anticipated attendance. But your roadmap could be the same, regardless of the number of people, whether it's 50 or 5,000. But you're going to recommend scaling it up and down, or is it just going to be carte blanche, covers everybody?
So we went with the 100, right?
Yeah.
We're not. Let's not get into that at this moment, okay? So we went with the 100, like you said. It's just recommendations for now. It's kind of like that was our target. But if y'all want to move it up and down, whatever the case may be, but as far as how the sheriff's department handled it, amount of people wise, we're not going to quite go into that right now.
Okay.
All right.
Fair enough.
And I'd also like to add that the idea of the attendance cap is to get a general, like to encompass all of the large events. Right. Are there any other questions? All right, these recommendations have been ranked in our previous meetings, so we've gone over them in depth and try to catch all the little nuances here and there. So these are what we believe are in order from top to bottom in priority. So our first recommendation is parking assistance. In large events, we offer parking here in the park and sometimes in that little field across the street off of Langford, I believe. The objective of this recommendation is to improve traffic flow, parking organization, and pedestrian safety during large events. So what we're going to basically do is ask certain organizations, like we can have JRDC, Scouts, and then we can have them come out and work our parking. We've done this before, to my knowledge, we've done this before, and it's of minimal cost, and it's quick to implement, and it also gives some of our younger people service hours and volunteer hours. Of course, it's not completely closed. I believe it's not completely closed to organization. Of course, you can volunteer if you'd like, but we would be reaching out to these youth organizations to help us out with parking. Any questions?
I have a question. So you'd be reaching out to them well in advance of an event, or is it per event you're going to be reaching out, or will you basically have them on standby, like you've already gone to them, and so when an event comes up, then you know that these are the particular organizations that you would go to for volunteers?
I believe that we would be contacting them per event. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that for each large event, we'll reach out to a specific organization and say, hey, we have this volunteer opportunity. Would you like to come out? And also, I believe it gives back some small amount of money to them as well.
Does the parking assistance apply to only town assets, or would it apply outside? Like, would you coordinate parking with Blythewood High School or the local businesses, or would it only apply to the property that the town owns? You mentioned the field across the street on the corner of Langford and Sandfield. There's obviously some parking internally in Doka Meadows Park. I'm kind of curious as to where your boundaries end.
From what I believe is that we're going to have this parking assistance for the park,
Okay.
purely the park assets.
Town property.
Right.
Okay. Good enough. Thank you.
So let me ask you a question. So when you looked at parking, you looked at what we done historically with using these groups historically for events, correct?
Correct.
Okay, all right.
Correct. I even believe that one of the examples that we use of this was for our Rib Fest, where we have parking there, and we have JRTC students come out and help with that.
Mr. Mayor, question, if I may?
Yes, sir.
Go ahead, sir. Sorry.
I just wanted to add that when we had these discussions on parking assistance, the main focus was that we didn't want parking assistance to interfere with the security aspect of the actual park and whatever footprint we have for the event. So that was where the ideas came in for volunteer groups, as opposed to trying to take away from staff or extra duty security to cover any. We definitely didn't want that to occur, to have to use them for any kind of traffic or parking assistance.
Okay. Mr. McKendry, Councilman
A couple questions, Ira, if I may. And again, thank you. You're probably going to be thanked by everybody up here, but thank you and the rest of, certainly the ad hoc committee, for the time and dedication you put into bringing us this presentation tonight. All 5 of these recommendations, if all 5 are adopted, or any of them, would be the responsibility of the town to implement, fund, and pull off when the town sponsors a large event in the future. Am I correct in that?
Correct, correct.
So we have utilized some volunteer organizations in the past for parking. One of my questions would be, on your slide, the benefit, volunteer group to carry own insurance. Can you elaborate on that?
Volunteer. Oh, this is basically saying when you reach out to these organizations, these student organizations, they already have a leader over them. So when what am I trying to say? So that basically, if there's anything to go wrong, the insurance would fall on them. They would have to take care of all of that, and we wouldn't be responsible for their mishaps if that were the case.
I think I'm
Right,
following.
Zaire, but that is a suggestion that was made by Shelby, and I think I can just speak for her. She is not here, and she is an attorney. But she did mention that, I don't think all of them, but one of the benefits might be to having a group like that is that they have insurance to cover whatever misconduct maybe that might occur on their behalf. And other than that, I don't know what the details are.
So pretty much it would just be an additional insured situation. Okay, I follow you. If the Rotary Club came out and they're carrying a policy and they're gonna volunteer for parking, we would just ask them to name us as additional insured on that policy for the time they're serving at that event.
Right. Yeah. Mainly, it's trying to keep as much pressure off of us as possible so that we can allocate our resources to safety. That's really the main point of these things. Are there any other questions? All right, perfect. For our fourth recommendation, we plan to coordinate a safety, maybe like a safety meeting with local businesses and organization. The aim of this recommendation is to basically control what happens after the event. So when you're in a large event, right, we have a large event, after the event, usually the kids will disperse and they'll go to, maybe they go to Waffle House or maybe they go to McDonald's down the street. The idea of this is to coordinate with these businesses and get with them and say, hey, we're gonna have a large event tonight and we want to ask you to kind of help with this, right? Maybe you refuse service to like youth after a certain amount of time. We will talk about a curfew a little later, but it's not necessarily to be. I'll go over that a little bit later. But the idea with the coordinating with businesses is to make sure that we contain what happens after the event. Because if you prevent something from happening somewhere, kids will just migrate somewhere else and then cause problems elsewhere. And I'm pretty sure I didn't do a good job explaining that, so if you have any questions, please feel free.
Logistically, just from a logistical standpoint, how would the town even begin to start pulling that off? And I'll use just the town particular, whether you're talking about a movies in the park, which could be 400 people, or a Rockin' Red, White, and Blue where there's 7,000 to 10,000 people. When that event is over, it is, I mean, it's as hard to get into as it is to get out of. And clearly, Blythewood, Carolina Wings is extremely busy. McDonald's is extremely busy. Waffle House, I mean, anybody that's ever been to one of those, it's kind of the explosion after the event.
Right.
People tend to stop on their way out. So how do you begin logistically to try to curtail that?
One of the main incidents that we discussed when we were having this conversation was prom night last year. If anybody remembers, it was when the Exxon station and the Waffle House had problems, huge problems. Our plan here was just to, and it's got to be voluntary, but these businesses have some responsibility to get involved and not to allow these crowds to gather. So our suggestion was for you to maybe invite the business owners prior to some of these events so that they would know what's available to them to help. And that's a recommendation that we made. Possibly it may incur a little additional cost, but providing an extra hour or so of off-duty security from the Sheriff's Department so that it gives people time to get out, and even if they stop at the restaurants and things like that. But the business owners need to know that they need to call after these events if a crowd migrates to their location as opposed to the town park.
Okay, so I think there's a couple of key points that we can zone in here that makes this extremely simple. The second line item under benefit, improve situational awareness. Inform and communicate. Let these businesses know that there's a major event coming into the town, and let's just face it, people, there's only like maybe 2 or 3 that are gonna warrant that level of disseminating information. Rockin' Red, White, and Blue is probably really the only one where you got 7,000 to 10,000 people in the town. Prom night could be one that's not a town, necessarily a town event. Graduation could be one, not town events. But again, putting out an APB, letting the businesses know, hey, there have been issues in the past, plan accordingly. You know, it's not our responsibility to provide security on nights where we're not bringing 10,000 people into the town. But nevertheless, communicating, being a good steward for the town is probably a good idea across the board.
It's twofold. It's to
Yep.
let them know ahead of time that
Correct.
there's a crowd expected.
Correct.
And what they can do about it.
I liked what you said about the idea of, retaining a couple of different law enforcement officials to kind of just be in and around our hot spots. We know where our hot spots are. They're going to be the restaurants that are open past 10 o'clock because that's the only place you can go. So it's going to be your Waffle Houses, your McDonald's, your gas station that stays open. So coordinating with those businesses, letting them know that we're going to have a large influx of people into the town. We're anticipating a large influx of people in the town, and that there'll be a little bit of additional overwatch or community watch for a period of time. I think that solves attempts to remedy those situations where you have spillover. If it's communicated to the public as well as the businesses that there's going to be increased law enforcement from this after this event, don't tell them when it ends, then people just have their good time and then they go home. That should be a pretty easy fix and should be very easy to implement. Sorry to steal your thunder.
If I could just make one comment while I talk into the wrong thing. It behooves the businesses, because the businesses are in Blythewood. It might not be Doco Meadows Park, but what happens in Blythewood is in the news, and Blythewood has a responsibility with the businesses, in my opinion, to get together and try to work together because we're all, one Blythewood, but in the community's eyes, or people that are wanting to move here, or people that want to take their kids out and go do something. If something happens at Waffle House, that's a Blythewood problem. Obviously, that's a Blythewood problem, but that would be my summation comment about working with the businesses, is that it behooves everybody to work together because it's all really one Blythewood.
Thank you, and I'll add one more comment. We forgot all about the Chamber of Commerce. So, just like Councilman Brock's expertise is in events, mine is in emergency management, and one piece, Department of Commerce connection to the Chamber of Commerce, which we just connect to. We don't need the state involved in it, but we can connect to the Chamber of Commerce, give them the tools, because as policymakers, even myself in that profession, I won't go out to do that. Councilman Brock won't go out and plan these events. The Chamber of Commerce can lead that charge, can work with law enforcement, spell that information out, because one thing after the Waffle House shooting that really wasn't made public was some assessments, just checking out the community. Different professionals in this community, such as you all, rode around and sent out their pieces of what we can do as a community. And that was one of the things that was missing, was the communication link with the Chamber of Commerce to reach out to these businesses in the area. That's their main charge, to reach out, and one thing, to educate. So we have to rely on them to educate the public, those business owners, on what we're doing as a town, and then what the Sheriff's Department can do to assist and remedy those pieces. We may not. One thing we had a issue with was talking about cost and how much, and trying to figure out how much this would be. Some of those businesses may have pieces like the Waffle House. In their emergency plans, they have protocols where, quite frankly, they can't turn around certain people. So they have other provisions in their plan where at certain tier stores warrant for security. The Waffle House in Ridgeway is one of their stores that warrants for security, not this one. So, you know, it's kind of helping them understand from their management and corp what needs to be done. So that's not for us to do as members of the elected body, but the chamber can definitely lead that way in conversation.
Absolutely.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
I would add, and the example you gave, clearly prom night kind of stands out in everybody's mind because of what was created, and it wasn't prom night that created it. It was after the prom was over that created the situation. And the four businesses counting the hotel that were directly affected all had different responses. Exxon gas station, Larry Sharp closed his gas station. The gas station was closed for well over an hour before the crowd was under control. His gas station was closed because of shoplifters. So to the mayor's point, when you have 4 different tiers of businesses, one's a hotel where people are staying, so you can't very well lock that. Different Waffle Houses have different standards. And then you have McDonald's. So just in that one business corridor, and I appreciate what you said, but I would almost think small businesses want the business from a large town event. That drives business to the town. The whole premise behind hospitality tax is to drive those people to a business, to get gas, to get something to eat. But again, in coordinating the safety plan with local businesses and organizations, it's the bad apples that have to be addressed, not the people who are trying to do business in Blythewood.
Right.
So I think there is a both and there. We just have to navigate how you get it because people are excited. I mean, any small business, whether it's Sweet Peas ice cream or Carolina wings or Waffle, I mean, you're excited to have 7,000 to 10,000 people come in Blythewood because you know you're going to have a bump in business. Granted, prom night happened at 2 o'clock in the morning. My grandma always told me nothing good happens after midnight. So that in and of itself we could address that, try to address that just from a town perspective, knowing that the largest problem we have was not associated with a town event. It was after several high school proms. So I appreciate that, and clearly I think the chamber could help play a role there as well.
Absolutely, and if like we can get all of them on board kind of, or even just like extend our hand, like just give them the recommendation, or just give them the opportunity, the tools, like it's already been said, maybe it'll inspire them to put in their own, implement their own, I guess, policies and things to combat those things, and make Blythewood itself safer, and not just our events. That's really good. Any other questions? All right, our third priority on our recommendation list is event registration and wristbands. This is an interesting one. You may have seen this one at the fair if you've gone and attended. The idea here is to have a registration, an online registration portion beforehand, as well as an in-person registration, I believe. What you will get, if you are registered, you will get a colored wristband that will be, the color will change per event. That way you can't like keep the wristband from the before and sneak in kind of thing. But the idea of the wristband is so that our officers on duty will be able to identify who should be there and who shouldn't be there. And that kind of gives us like a visible fence. Like it would be great if we could just fence off all of all of Delco and just call it a day, but that's impractical. So with the idea of the wristbands, it shows that you, and we'll have different colors for different ages. So it shows you, whether or not you should be there. If you don't have a wristband, you'll be asked to leave. So just going to go over this a little bit. It's really easy. It's really easy to implement because we have already a couple of online resources that we can already use for this. We actually even thought about doing a demo here because it's that easy. But what it's going to do for us is that we can just ask basic questions. It doesn't have to be super intrusive, but the idea is that if you are registering for an event, or if you're going to go to an event and you plan to do wrong, if you plan to do wrongdoing, if you plan to be a little mischievous, you're not going to want to put in all your information on somewhere and where like the officers have access to or where we have access to. So the idea of that is to kind of ward off some of those bad apples, like it's been said. And then also we're going to, we would like to have entryways be controlled and be monitored, right? So we'll have staffing at entry points. Those can come from just volunteers and anyone who wants to volunteer. And they will be handing out wristbands. Another thing will be well, never mind, it's not in here. But the idea is that it's low cost, it's easy to implement, and if you come to the event without registering, all you got to do, there should be like QR codes around. All you got to do is take your phone out, snap the QR code, and then fill out your registration, and you get a wristband right there. We're not looking to charge for people. We're not looking to charge people for events. That is an option if that ever comes up. But the idea is to kind of weed out the people who would like to cause problems and people who just want to have a good time. Obviously, rules are for the people who want to follow them. People who will break them will probably try and find a way around them, but this does mitigate maybe people coming over from the railroad tracks because they're not going through the entry point, so they won't have a wristband. Or maybe if they're sneaking on from any other angle of the park, they won't have a wristband, so the officers will ask them to leave. And that's the idea of this recommendation. Any questions?
I do have a question. So would you have multiple entrances and volunteers set up that people could come in multiple ways, and then they would scan their QR code and get the wristbands, multiple, over here, or would you just have one centralized entrance?
I believe the idea was to have multiple so it doesn't get super congested because that could kind of take away from the event. But honestly, that's up to you guys, however that's
But let's just say, for instance, I'm just thinking out loud, so let's just say, for instance, someone were to sneak in, then the only way that they would be called out is if someone noticed that they didn't have a wristband.
right.
Or if they cause a commotion.
Well,
Okay,
okay, are you done, Councilwoman Fry? I don't want
I
to
am,
interrupt.
I
Okay.
am.
I have a little bit to say on this. First of all, you will have people that sneak in. There's no if. You will have people. If you go up to one of the previous slides, let's see, the second one, scope and applicability, I think I said that correctly, applies to participation within designated events areas, correct? So you could have a large number of people in the park that don't have wristbands that are perfectly welcome to be there because they're not within the footprint of the event.
Right.
It's going to be very challenging to monitor that footprint between people that do have wristbands and don't have wristbands because the people that are going to comply and follow the rules are going to come through I like to call them bottlenecks.
Right.
It's where you force people in, you give them their wristbands. I have the luxury of creating bottlenecks at my events, but the luxury that I also have that we do not is I have walls and doors that I can monitor and lock so that they only go out and come back in.
Right.
There are no walls around this entire facility. So that's going to be a challenge. How you monitor, where is the footprint you know, are you going to have people like stationed every so often? Or are you going to rely on the public to determine whether or not, hey, we saw 3 youths that came across the railroad track and now they've gone into the footprint. Well, what did they look like? I don't know. There was 3 of them. You know, so that's going to create some challenges. Dang, I'm going the wrong way. Sorry. My question, and this kind of applies to Pete, is, and I'm not asking for legal advice, so I think you should be able to answer this question. It seems to me that when you apply some sort of admittance restriction, a wristband, to go into said area, are you skirting the lines or flirting with the recreational immunity issue there? Because are you privatizing the event? Even though it's free, you've got to register. I guess if you register on site, then that solves that could potentially solve that problem. But is it that's one question. Are we flirting with the whole recreational immunity issue? And number 2, is it our best use of time and resources to walk around seeing who does and doesn't have wristbands and trying to monitor a certain area when, if it's rockin' red, white, and blue, well, the footprint's probably the whole park, because you've got the fireworks back there, you've got everybody up here in the amphitheater and the playground and the parking lot and the field by the Hoffman House. So your footprint are obviously going to expand and contract with your events. So I'd like to hear the recreational immunity question first.
I mean, I think under the recreational use immunity statute, I think that requires a charge for attendance. So, I mean, if you're just talking about requiring a wristband, I don't think that is a charge.
But would we have the authority to eject them if they are within a certain boundary by not having a wristband?
Certainly. I mean,
Okay.
I think that would. I think that may fall under the park rules and ordinances that we enacted, that council enacted in the last year.
Okay.
It's also, as we talked about earlier, trespass. If someone from the town puts someone on trespass notice, then they need to leave. And if
Okay.
they don't leave, I think they're trespassing at that point.
But it would be town and staff's responsibility to do that, not Richland County's officers. We would have to alert them, and then they could do it.
Well, yes, I think so.
Okay.
I mean, I can probably give some advice on that, maybe an executive
Later.
session about
Yeah.
about enforcement of
Yeah.
enforcement of state law versus enforcement of ordinances.
Yep, okay. All right. I use wristbands. I understand the benefit of it. Never done it in an open field. Presents some other challenges.
Question, Brock, are you done? Yeah. Question here on number 3 as well. I've done events and used Eventbrite, and I've attended events that used Eventbrite. Typically, you print the name tag of the attendee that you can hand them when they check in. Sometimes you say, show me an ID, and sometimes you say, can I have your name? Yeah, here, and they give. So that would be the point that you could give the wristband by color, by age. My question is, Eventbrite is set up for a one-on-one interaction. It's me, I have A through E. The person beside me has F through whatever. You get your name tag or your wristband. With multiple entrance points, it makes that extremely difficult, because now you're forcing staff or volunteers to look at a list, and now backing up. All right, I've got to have your name. I now have to check to see where you are on the list, who you registered for. And this family registered for 3, but you have 4 people with you. Yeah, my son's girlfriend came with us. Is she registered? I mean, you create through, it's a great software, and it's free. There's great free softwares out there.
Right.
But if not used properly, create an unbelievable bottleneck for, I mean, we just attended a scout event. There were 250 people, but the longest line was to get your name tag. That was the choke point at the scout event, and they were overly prepared for it. And then I'm not necessarily asking for an answer. I'm just pointing out when And then how do you handle it if my son's girlfriend or our next door neighbor rides with us and they weren't registered with us and they're trying to enter with us? What are some recommendations, and maybe you don't answer them here, but it doesn't take very long before 20 people become 50, become 100, become 200. And then when is the cutoff point? Eventbrite allows you to set one, which again, I'll use Scout as an example. They knew for the training center opening, they knew when they hit capacity because Eventbrite was full. So what did they do the next day? They added another day. So they were able to take on another 300 people just by knowing that. Well, we don't have that advantage for a movies in the park or a rockin' red, white, and blue. If we put 7,000 people here as our max, and we hit 7,000 people before, June 15th, how does that play? I mean, that creates, again, I appreciate the Eventbrite style being put forward, but if you've ever used it or attended somewhere that did use it, even the municipal association uses it at all their events to get in for continued education for even the big conferences. And again, and if you've attended or you've ever been anywhere that uses Eventbrite, typically the biggest bottleneck is when you're trying to get in and get your packet and get your name tag. Yet now we're saying we're going to get you in, give you an armband by color that we're asking you to wear. And if you're not registered, you can step aside, scan a QR code, register, and then get back in line to get your wristband. That is a big concern of mine. Second concern is in your opening statement, you said the designated area, which I think makes logical sense. It does not necessarily make practical sense because you even referenced for 4th of July, that's an amphitheater event. So the playground would be open to the public. Absolutely would not work because the rockin' red, white, and blue encompasses everything this park has to offer and much, much, much more. I mean, people park at Waffle House to watch the fireworks, so they never even make it to the park. And for those overflow areas outside the designated area, I may feel like I have to register on Eventbrite, but I'm coming nowhere near the park. So the communication piece to, if you're coming to the fireworks and you anticipate being within the designated area, which we would have to spell out,
Right.
very, very detailed, you would have to register through Eventbrite. And then we have to be careful that we don't create a whiplash to where I'm not going to go inside the gate at DOCO because I have to register on Eventbrite and give my personal information. And my teenager has to wear a wristband. We're just going to park at Barbara's office and watch the fireworks or at any building outlying. So we may be creating an adverse whiplash effect to where there's very few people in the park. I'm just, as I read through your slides, I was thinking, okay, what are the gives and takes to what we're talking about doing, which goes back to your earlier point. Now we've failed the businesses because we have 3,000 people in the park when we could hold 6, but you can't get in McDonald's parking lot or the Carolina Winds parking lot or the Waffle House parking lot. So did y'all discuss those, think about those?
Well, if I may, Councilman
Yeah.
McKendrick, those are challenges that will be for council. There are tremendous challenges with everything you said holds true, and it might be that it's not a good recommendation. We're a volunteer group. We met maybe 4 times. We could do it again and meet some more and give up some more time, but that's about all. We were able to dive into some of your complex questions, and it doesn't mean that event registration and wristbands and Eventbrite is the answer, and it very well may be an adverse result, which we don't want, but I think that's the challenge of being on council, is to have those conversations and draw up that expertise and go from there.
I'd just like to add that Some of the questions that you're asking about the bottlenecks and the logistics of this whole thing will be answered at some point. However, the wristband idea came up as an easy way to be able to identify any problems early on. The focus of the task force was safety. It was not on the number of people at the events or, you know, how successful the events are. It's strictly safety. The people that are coming want to be there safely, and we don't want to deter people from coming because of concerns for safety. So these recommendations, and I hate that Shelby's not here for this one because this was a great idea by her. Yes, it might take some tweaking, it might take some practice runs to see how it runs, but we did discuss pre-registration so we would have an idea of who was coming to start with, and then to prepare the amount of staff that it would take to hand out the wristbands and to have the QR codes available at the entrance points for people that had not yet registered.
A follow-up question.
Sure.
It was stated earlier, if we have a movies in the park or have issues with groups gathering, that the sheriff's department could get involved once those individuals were trespassed. Are we now saying that if we say you have a wristband on, you're allowed, you don't have a wristband on, you have to be removed, that sheriff's deputy is going to remove that person without being trespassed?
If they refuse to leave, that would be for the staff to contact the sheriff's department.
Simply because they do or don't have a wristband on, under the wristband
Because
scenario?
they've been asked to leave the premises due to the rules of the park.
By,
Staff.
see, again, yeah, I'm with you. But again, the onus is being put on the staff member, not the off-deputy sheriffs we have here. We wouldn't be able just to say to an off-deputy sheriff, if you see a crowd of teenagers gathering and they don't have wristbands on, they need to be removed. We have to add another layer there to have staff say, oh, we have a crowd of teenagers gathering, 7 of them don't have wristbands on, now we got to go find a deputy, and the deputy has to remove them. Am I correct?
I would defer to them as well, but they can do it on the staff's behalf. But it has to be coming from the staff that they need to leave according to the rules.
The issue that you guys are going to run into is that you guys are an incorporated area of the county. You guys do not have law enforcement. So your guys' rules, all right, or ordinances that you have can't be enforced by us because they're your guys' rules and regulations. I can enforce in the town of Blythewood, or my guys can enforce the rules in town of Blythewood through state statute. So if there's an ordinance being broken, I think this is where your staff would come into play, is that if your staff is out working and they are able to see it, they now become that code enforcement officer, right? So if anybody that you guys have employed and now are code enforcement officers through you guys' town ordinances, it becomes that point, all right? I don't know what you guys have as far as municipality and who you guys would talk to. If there is an agreement with Judge Hightower out here in Blythewood Magistrate, I'm not sure. It's something else that you guys are gonna have to explore, if that makes any sense.
It does.
Okay.
So at a Rockin' Red, White, and Blue, there's a crowd gathering. They don't have wristbands on. The off-duty sheriffs we have on site would not.
There is a I don't know what the MOU looks like for the town in Richland County. I'm almost positive, all right, and please don't quote me because I haven't read it, that we do have an MOU that's with the town of Blythewood to assist on those things as an off-duty or what we call a Signal 30 unit. Mayor, I'm not exactly sure if that.
We have that agreement.
Correct. But that's the only time that we're able to do. Okay. All right, so Master Deputy Simpson has actually a statute here to help maybe understand a little bit more what you're trying to get to.
Just gonna kind of delve into this a little bit later, but I'll jump to this, and this is the only thing I'm gonna discuss right here, what I have. All right, so the biggest issue that you have is this is a park, okay? Everyone is welcome here from dusk to dawn, okay? Even if you have an event here, whatever the case may be, everyone is welcome, okay? So even if you didn't have an ordinance necessarily, right? There's not a lot we can do with that, right? Because everyone's welcome to come to the park. So if we have an event and we have juveniles here or anything like that, people that we don't, like people that are causing issues, whatever the case may be, okay? There is a statute, a state law that allows me to remove someone if they refuse to leave certain places when it's regularly closed, which allows us to come, if somebody's in the park, your gate's broken, and they're in the park after dark, I can come in here and tell people to leave. If they refuse to, I can take them to jail. They're trespassing, right? So, where we were going with it, if we create, and this is where the ordinance came earlier, and I was gonna kinda hit on it later, if we created a rule of the park to where juveniles are, say, not allowed in the park anytime after 7, year-round. Juveniles allowed in the park without a parent. If the town did that, then at that point on, after 7 p.m., the park would be closed to anyone under the age of 18 who is not being escorted with a parent. So at that point, I could then enforce such statute in the park. Okay, so that's where we stand with that.
All right,
And that was the idea between the bands. The biggest thing with the bands is being able to identify if somebody's a juvenile or an adult. It's not necessarily just to, because, hey,
Yeah.
who was fighting at the playground? It was our juveniles, right? Unaccompanied juveniles, right? The biggest issue that we have throughout the entire county is typically juveniles. So if we know who is a juvenile and who's accompanied by an adult, then that's more control that the town has in the events.
Would a off-duty sheriff's deputy who the town is paying to provide security for an event have that same authority?
Yes. Yes,
Thank
any Richland County deputy, whether on duty, off duty, has the same power as me standing here right now.
All right, thank you very
We're
much.
all commissioned through the sheriff.
Thank you, sir.
Officer. So if I'm hearing you correctly, the key identifying factor would be to, assuming it's dark outside, during the day, everybody can see pretty much everything. Hit a flashlight, pop somebody on the wrist, you can determine if they're a juvenile or if they're an adult, correct?
Well,
Generally speaking, you'll be looking for juveniles. Those tend to be of greater risk.
unaccompanied juveniles.
Oh, yeah, okay. So what if, and I'm just asking the group, just kind of throwing this out there, what if we required juvenile registration?
I thi-
Yeah, no, I'm just saying, I'm just throwing that out there, like, if you're looking to identify unaccompanied juveniles,
Right.
then juveniles need to have wristbands on.
Right.
That's easy to identify.
And that's a discretion on your end, however you want to do
Well, I'm
that.
not directing it to you, I'm just
Right.
directing it at the group.
Right, and I think the reason, if you blanket everything, there's no discrimination, there's nothing there, everybody has to do this, you have to do it, and that's it, right? And, because how many 14-year-olds look like 20-year-olds? How do I know this 14-year-old?
Well, you're not gonna know that regardless.
Right? And that's just one of those things, you know, we just have to figure out, if everybody has a wristband, today, the adults have red, and the juveniles, no matter what, always have yellow, then I know, no matter what, that's a juvenile right there. They had to register. If anybody that works for the town, same as the fair, right? It's kind of like for bags at the fair. If we see somebody walking around with a bag without a band on it, doesn't have the color code for that day, we grab them, we take them to the entrance, their bag is searched. Somebody approves for them to have a band on that bag, right? So if the staff or deputies see somebody walking around with the band, we ask them to go to the place where we're checking in at, make sure they're checked in, and make sure they have a band. There's not a whole lot of ways to control it. You know, it's just ideas.
No, but you're assuming that people are 100% honest when they're registering for the event.
I don't assume anybody's
No,
honest.
no, I'm just, no, I'm not, the point is that
Right.
you're subject to the discrepancy of those who register for the event.
At least the town would be doing something, right? And that's the way I look at it personally. I bring my family here. We live over in Winsboro. There's hardly anything to do. We come here for things. We enjoy coming here for things. I come to Blythewood Ribs. We go to the ice cream shop over. We drive 40 minutes to go to the ice cream shop over there, right? I live on the north side of Fairfield. We do that. We want to do that, right? And I think as long as folks see that the town is trying, right? We can't control all the situations. We can do what if all day long. All day we can ask what if, but at least we're trying, right? That's any other questions?
Thank you, sir. You have a floor.
Are there any other, are there any other questions for the rest of the committee? Perfect.
Getting serious. You just rolled your sleeves up.
Yeah.
So our second priority, or second prioritized recommendation is a youth supervision policy. We've said it before multiple times in our meeting here. The main problem comes from kids my age. So it's important to make sure that you have something that will target my age group, because that's where the main problems come from. So with, we've kind of already been covered over a little bit, but what we recommend that we do for the park is to require minors to be accompanied by a parent or a responsible adult during designated evening hours. I believe what we said is around like sunset, which is what was said. Of course, this is all subject to however you guys want to interpret that or how you want to implement this. But the idea of this is to reduce unsupervised youth gatherings and to kind of control what kids my age are doing, really. It's more about what happens with kids my age is that when they are unsupervised, when they don't want to say this, but when they don't have the home teaching, I guess if I want to say it like that, if they don't have supervision, then they're more likely to do something wrong, right? If they aren't watched, they're more likely to do something wrong. Bad things happen in the dark. With the idea of this youth supervision policy is that if you have an adult with you, you're less likely to do something because your mom's going to say, hey, what are you doing? Or your dad's going to be like, why were you over there at this time? But that's the whole idea of this policy. It's to kind of get the adults, the guardians, and kind of remind them of their responsibility to make sure that their kids are doing correct. Any questions?
I have one thing to say about this slide, shocking. I would change one word on it. The objective reads, requires minors to be accompanied by a parent or responsible adult during designated evening hours. I would strike the word evening and I would substitute event. And the reason I say that is because if you're requiring minors to have a wristband after a certain period of time and they're already in the park, you've already lost control by that point. Expecting minors, whether they're accompanied by adults or not, to come back to a check-in station to get a wristband so they can stay is just, that's folly. They're not going to do it. And then you're going to, all your staff is going to be tasked with trying to round up these kids that are there properly, but they don't have wristbands. If the event starts at 3 o'clock, that's when you got to wristband everybody when they're going in, especially the youth, because they're not going to set reminders on their phone to go back up and get a pink wristband or something because they're under the age of 18. I mean, so that's the only thing I would change on there. Evening to event hours. Makes it easy. Get them when they're coming in.
Is there there any other questions or comments? Perfect. All right, so our number one recommendation for opening back up large events for Doco Meadows is to do an safety assessment, event safety and threat assessment. The idea behind this, obviously, I don't have all my expertise on this. The idea of this is to do a formal assessment of the park and kind of identify places of interest, places that pose a threat, and just improve not only like the park safety for events, but just the overall park. I don't have anything further to comment on this, but I'm pretty sure some of the other members do.
Well, can I ask you one question as you start this section? And I think the ad hoc committee has it because I've heard you reference it, and I've certainly heard Councilwoman Hovis reference it, but I want to be crystal clear in your objective here. All of these recommendations apply to town-sponsored large events. So when we put a pause on large events and subsequently canceled the ones that were funded in the budget when we passed that pause, that was for town-run large events, and we can name them. We've named them here. You're talking about movies in the park. You're talking about Rockin' Red, White, and Blue. Ribfest was just held a month or so ago in the park. That was a large event. There were thousands of people here. The chamber ran it. They hired their security. They determined what the access, egress points were. They had volunteers for parking. They ran that event. I was here. It's a very successful event. Ribs were fantastic. But the town didn't have anything to do with that. That was a Chamber of Commerce run event. And we are open for business for large events. The question that we've had, certainly I've had all along, is how does the town take responsibility? And then again, I would ask the ad hoc committee, this applies to the pinch points for us were the 2025 Rockin' Red, White, and Blue and the 2025 movies in the park rounding down the season. So those three events were, and this is just a question because a picture paints 1,000 words. Were any of the ad hoc members present for any of those events?
Yes, I was.
So you're very familiar with, it's a fine event. Movies in the park is fine, absolutely fine. The movie's playing, kids are running around, throwing frisbees until it's not. And buddy, when it's not, then it's mayhem, it's panic. So again, Chamber of Commerce, anybody else that wants to come to Blythewood and put on a firework display in July, call Ed Driggers and we'll reserve the amphitheater for you. But when you add the town, and the town is saying, we're going to put on an event, and the implication is, from my standpoint, we're going to do all we can do to keep you and your family safe during that event. So in that event safety threat assessment, we're not discouraging large events from coming to Blythewood, but we have clearly put a pause on town-sponsored large events until we have a better handle on what y'all have been working on.
We did have a risk assessment. We had police officers, they were involved. We had different people who came from Columbia, and there were several of us that we walked around the park that day.
Well, John, let me stop you right there. We're gonna discuss that in executive session, that portion. Yes, ma'am.
I'd just like to address your comments because I agree with you 100%. When it's a town-sponsored event, you have to think about the town's liability.
100%.
If somebody is injured down there, and we spoke about it during some of these meetings, some of the events that happen nationally could potentially happen here. So this is why this is the main priority for us.
Yeah, to the deputy's point,
It's
he
gonna-
drives his family to Blythewood for ice cream. If he's coming from Winsboro to rocking red, white, and blue, I want him to be able to drive back just as safely as he drove here. So yeah, I agree with you 100%.
And that's why we made this the priority, and they did the yeoman's portion of the work here, and their presentation should be seriously considered, even if there's cost involved, because down the road, you're preventing some liability if something were to happen safety-wise in this park. And it's been said during multiple slides here, this has been a layered approach. We expect that some of them may fail, but where one fails, the other one may catch it. So that's why we made multiple recommendations, but this, of course, would be the priority.
And yeah, as we enter into that assessment, Blythewood is, Blythewood is different from so many towns and municipalities in so many ways. You're sitting in an event center for a town that has 12 full-time employees. 12. And we put on an event, one a year, that brings 10,000 plus people. And it's a town-sponsored event. We have 12 full-time employees. Almost that dichotomy that you paint right there makes your brain go, what in the world? I mean, Columbia Fireflies Stadium can hold 10,000 people for a fireworks display, but we're also talking about Columbia, South Carolina.
And we considered this venue specifically and the events that have been put on in the past. Like Deputy Simpson said, we compared it to the fairgrounds as well. City of Columbia deals with and Richland County deal with people coming from all over the state to that fair. On a smaller scale, the Lexington Amphitheater, they have events there. So we discussed all of those during these events, and we tried to pull some of the best ideas from all of them.
Just know one thing. Every single facility that you just mentioned, they have walls and gates. We don't. That is the biggest hurdle.
It's a big hurdle.
That's a massive hurdle when you've got a 360-degree entry point.
And it
Ice House Amphitheater, they might have 3 gates, 4 gates. Segra Park, 1 back by, I think, by the first baseline, 3 out front. Maybe there's 1 over on the third base side, I don't know. But they've got 4 or 5.
Even the fairgrounds
got a
is
half a
controlled.
dozen.
We may not be able to clear that hurdle, but we're doing our due diligence.
Okay, Trish, we're not poo-pooing on you. We're just pointing out facts that there are major hurdles here. And I would love to be able to get some of them. And you know what? Some of them we just may have to say, you know what? These are the hurdles that we're not ever going to get past. And we can put the best policies and plans in place. And then you tell the public, if you act like assholes, and I'm not trying to be blustering here, but if you act like an ass, then we're not going to do this anymore. Because if you people are going to work your butts off and volunteer your time and come up with plans, and then people can't control themselves, then this guy's not going to fund events moving forward.
Understood.
And I
So
think-
why
I
don't
think
we
that's
wrap
fair,
up the
too.
presentation and
Yeah,
we'll
that's
maybe hear
good.
some additional points that will help you understand that what
All
you're
right,
saying is probably
you
makes
continue,
sense.
sir.
Are there any other?
Go ahead and continue. So we don't want to interrupt you anyway. Go ahead, sir.
In summary, these recommendations are just that. They're recommendations, so they're subject to change, and it's okay if they do. Obviously, we haven't hit every single angle, and I mean that's the whole point of a council. So it's great that we're able to come to you today, and it's great that y'all are able to be open-minded about this and be able to ask the hard questions, which is what this needs, right? It's not about us. It's not about the large events. It's about the safety of people of Blythewood. So, I'd like to thank you all, honestly. Now, I do have a slight recommendation as well, because most of our previous recommendations in the slide, they are based off of kind of what ifs, or maybe this can happen, maybe this won't happen. We propose that we have a large event open up, but as a trial run, kind of implementing maybe modifications of these recommendations. Of course, that's up to everybody in this room, but it would be a lot more helpful to us to see these recommendations put in place and assess whether it's actually practical to implement, to assess whether things should stay the way they are or whether things could be to change. So we also propose, like with a trial run event with some of our recommendations that we have posed today. We have an idea, like if we were to do that, we would, our committee would meet back together and have an after-action report. See what went well, what went wrong. Maybe there was an issue with the wristbands. Maybe there was a problem with parking. But the idea of that is to have a trial run, see what is good, what's bad, what we can change for next time. The idea is safety. That's the whole purpose of the committee. That's the whole purpose of the council, is to make sure people in Blythewood are safe. And that is all I have to say.
I got one comment for you. I think that's a great recommendation. A couple of things you're up against from a council standpoint, from a budgeting standpoint, a planning standpoint, is first funding. And we're in budget season, so we could certainly fix that. It would be, and the planning aspect. So in my opinion, you would be looking at the first movies in the park would be third quarter 2027, which is when Movies in the Park usually starts up, but you're looking at the 26, 27 budget. It would be third quarter 27, and if that's the target date to open up a large event, I would politely ask Councilwoman Hovis and all of y'all to make yourselves available on the front end of that planning to work with town staff to try to implement some of your ideas and be available to volunteer during it so you can see it in action, where the pinch points are, what worked great, what didn't work so good, and collectively get our mind put back together. I'm game, I'll be there, I'll park cars, I'll check people in, but let's together implement it versus the ad hoc committee saying, here's a recommendation, staff go ahead and run with it, and then we'll do an after action and we'll try to compare notes. It's much more beneficial if we're all there playing ball at the same time in the same game. And then afterwards we can say, yeah, here's really what went well and what didn't go well. So agreed.
I just wanted to comment that was discussed at the meeting, and we did all talk about that whoever can be there when the first event starts back up, we all want to be there as a committee for, a schedule allows. So we did talk about that.
Great, thank you.
Okay. Recommend Movies in the Park as the first return to a large event. Okay. When was it discussed to when that was going to happen? Is it going to happen like in the next month or 2 months? Is it going to happen in the next fiscal year? And the reason I ask that is because I'm going back to kind of what I kind of touched on initially was scalability of resources. Because I have a pretty good idea. We could play a lot of what ifs. We can play what if with Movies in the Park versus what if with Rockin' Red, White, and Blue, because it's two totally different what ifs. I suspect that if we did a trial run with Movies in the Park, it's probably going to go off reasonably well. I don't want to say flawless, because this is not Mortal Kombat. However, when you're trying to check in 300 to 400 people, it goes pretty quick. To touch on Councilman Kendrick, what he's talked about earlier, I use Eventbrite multiple times a year. I'm pretty good at organizing events and putting it on Eventbrite. I can help with that. I even have equipment that I could let people use, assuming that it comes back in one piece and not broken, to check people in. I've got dozens of iPads. It's easy enough. Checking 300 people in, having one ingress, one egress, pretty easy to do. Completely different event when you're trying to run 10,000 people in and you start at 3 o'clock, and it's 98 degrees on a July 3rd, it's a little different. Takes a little bit of different planning. I just, kudos for wanting to do a trial run, but in my opinion, a Movies in the Park is not a trial run. That's going to be a walk in the park, no pun intended. Your trial run is going to be your rockin' red, white, and blue. That's going to be where your rubber hits the road. That's where you're going to need your all hands on deck. You're going to need everybody in this audience, everybody here, plus who knows how many number of people. Because your footprint changes, your staffing changes, your resources change. That's your go. That's to determine whether or not it's viable or not, what you're implementing is going to work. Because you're going to need 6, 8 people at least checking QR codes, scanning QR codes, handing out wristbands, all that kind of stuff. Parking is going to fill up pretty quick. People are going to probably be more people walking to the park versus parking in the park. We're going to need to have a couple of places, but you don't want to have too many. You don't want to have too many entrances. You want to run there's a reason they're called bottlenecks. It's because that's where you control your access. You're going to want to have people kind of stationed around to make sure that people are going to those places. And if there's hordes, and when I think of hordes, I think of The Walking Dead with just zombie packs moving through town, because that's kind of what you get. You're going to want to kind of push them in a direction. So that's going to be our trial council. It's not going to be 300 people coming to watch a movie on a random Saturday night in August or September. It's going to be the 4th of July. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
And that does make sense too, because 4th of July is arguably one of our biggest events. It probably is our biggest event. So if it works for 4th of July, it'll work for every other event. That makes sense. But this concludes what I have to say. If there's anything that any of our council members want to say.
No, but just thank you to excuse me, Mayor, I didn't mean to interrupt, but thank you so much. And whenever you're old enough to run for office, I think each of us better hope that you don't run against us, okay? Because you're pretty amazing for how old are you?
17.
17, oh, you were 16, I think, when you started this, right?
Maybe, I might have been 17.
All right, well, anyway, thank you very much, Kay, and I'll defer to the mayor now.
Thank you. Before I close out and thank you guys in a ceremonial fashion and this council joins me, I do want to, because this is a sensitive and very important matter to get events going back. None of us up here with all the expertise, we can't do it by ourselves, okay? It's a community. But I do want to pause and make sure anybody in here, are there any questions and things that we may have missed or that should be duly noted? I'll pause for a few seconds. And if you have a question, just approach the podium. All righty, hearing none. Mr. Collins, I want to say officially on behalf of Blythewood Town Council to you as chairman and the rest of your ad hoc committee that's present and not present, thank you guys so much. Thank you. And when I go back out to the high school, I'm going to find you like I did the last time. And I'm definitely going to make sure that the school know that you served in this position honorably, and you are the example of the youth in our community. And I hope the media here will highlight you to show this community that we have excellent youth at our high schools. One bad apple or several on prom night did not spoil the excellent youth in Blythewood, okay? So I want to say personally, thank you for serving. Ms. Hovis, you'll help me. And I'm going to ask members of council, as we pass out certificates to you and some tokens of our appreciation from the town of Blythewood, I'm going to ask members of council to join me. And as we pass it out, go down the line, and I want them to shake your hands, okay, and tell you guys thank you. So I know Jordan to come up and snap photos. All right, council, we have a majority back up. I'll be looking for a motion to enter into executive session pursuant to South Carolina Code 30-4-70 to discuss one item, and this is the Doco Metals Part threat assessment provided by the Richland County Sheriff's Department that will be presented by Master Deputy Sloan Simpson, and he will also be accompanied by choice, if he can, his captain, Captain Walmsley.
Mr. Mayor, if I could also ask that Doug Pullen be invited as well?
Yes, sir. As accepted, unanimous consent.
I make that motion, sir.
Motion made and discussion.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, just for the clarification of the public, the only, of the slides that we just went over, the only slide that we're going to be discussing in executive session is slide number 1, event safety and threat assessment. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, just slide number 1.
All right. Do we need a,
But it's,
yeah. Okay. All right, motion made, motion made, second, any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Ayes have it. Move to executive session. Motion made. You on second, ma'am? All right. Thank you. Motion made. Motion second. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Following the executive session, is there anything requiring a vote? Hearing none, we will move on. Give me 1 second. Ms. Hovis, do you have anything to report from the foundation?
I do not, Mayor.
All right, thank you. I'm going to skip on mine for sake of time for the Midlands. Councilman McKendrick.
I'll skip on mine for time. We did not have a quorum at the meeting anyway, so.
Thank you. Let me back up, I'm sorry. I will be sending you guys an email from the last meeting last week. I'll be looking for somebody to serve on a board for the Blythewood Road straightening piece that I got them looking at. So look to your email as soon as I get more guidance from the COG. But this could be a general person in the community that could serve on that board as well, just to give some community input. Staff report, finance.
Given a positive variance of?
88. I didn't write it down.
Okay.
Look it up. It's 88 and some change. 88.
Sounds right, sir.
For the month or for the year?
For the month. I'm sorry, not for the year.
Okay. All right. Thank you, ma'am. Any questions for finance?
2 questions, but I'll email them to you.
Okay, sir.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Mr. Driggers, our town manager report.
Well.
You want to email it?
No, I don't, because, but I will go quickly. First, let me say, today, we wish a happy birthday to our Finance and HR Director, Jennifer Edwards. Today is her birthday, and we wish her a happy birthday. She's spending it with us.
Yes, you are.
Yes, so that's special recognition. Do want to remind you that we have posted and that we do have a special called meeting this Wednesday. We will be meeting at Town Hall because there is a training session with our boards and commissions in this room at the same time that we will be meeting. That meeting will be an open meeting. It's a regular meeting, but it's special called. You'll be receiving, you have received, and you'll be having the presentation of the report from Mr. Will Louder on the financial improvement study for the manor. He will be reviewing that in its entirety with you and making suggestions for implementation and receiving direction from you on path forward. So that will be happening this Wednesday night. That meeting is at 6 o'clock. I do want to let you know that we did complete the environmental assessment at Town Hall. We had some concerns there relative to some mold and mildew. We had all of the areas tested. We only had 2 areas that had some elevated levels, but they were not dangerous, and it was not of a type that gave us any environmental concerns. There will need to be some remediation that we are determining what that recommendation is at this point, and we'll be bringing some additional information to you on that. But certainly wanted to make sure that that environment is safe for all of our employees and visitors to Town Hall as well. Do want to let you know that we have a number of items that we have put out to bid. Under our process, when there is an appropriation for funds under the manager form of government, the manager has the authority to receive those bids and accept those bids as long as we are following procurement to do that. And so I wanted to make you aware of a couple that we're working with. One of those was involving the sod here at the manor. We received 3 bids for that work. We had a bid of $38,000. We had a bid of $25,350, another bid of $30,266.28, and a bid of $32,829.76. We are recommending the bid of $32,829. That was the bid that was recommended to me. I evaluated that. That bid, while it is not the lowest dollar amount, it is the lowest square foot amount for the work that we are achieving. So they are actually performing more installation than some of the other installs. And that is to a company called Modern Turf. And again, lowest per square foot at $32,829.76. We appropriated $50,000 in that. I am anticipating that we will do a change order with that bid to add riprap against the pond area here. We have an area between the edge of the pond that stays wet up to the area. We can't really mow that area. And so we're gonna attempt to achieve as much installation of riprap in that area as we can. We think, one, that it'll give us a good aesthetic appearance to that area, as well as it'll help us manage that wetland area that's surrounding the pond. And so that's how we're planning to move forward with that. Any questions regarding that? No. Very good. We did receive proposals, bids on the work with the amphitheater. We evaluated those. There were 3 that we evaluated. Remember, this work is being paid for out of an insurance claim. The bids were substantially higher than the insurance adjuster allowed. And so we have recommended back to the insurance company the low bidder for that work. And now the adjuster will meet with the low bidder, and they will negotiate the completion of that work for us to move forward. Again, we're doing that off of an insurance claim. So that's how we're.
Do we know who that one's going?
Just double check here real fast. We had, I think Clyde Nettles was who is being referred back. Is that right? Clyde Nettles was the company that's being referred out of Lexington at $38,333. Other bids were $46,677.70 on that, and the third bid on that was $48,250. So we did recommend the low bidder on that, and then for them to meet with our insurance adjuster to negotiate the work to be performed. So that's where we are with that. I told you about the town hall assessment. We also received a bid for the landscaping work at the I-77 corridor at Blythewood Road. The contract that we previously had with another provider, that contract had expired. We asked that contractor to resubmit a proposal on that work. They chose not to do that. They were charging us on a per mode basis as we temporarily were looking at that. We did 3 bids on that project. One was by a company called Barber, another by a company called Vereen, and another by a company called Detailed Landscaping. I evaluated those also on a per visit basis. Detailed was $34,200 for 18 services per year, more in the high growing season, less in the non-growing season. But their per visit cost or per mode visit was $1,900. Our second bid with Vereen was $26,400. It was $1,100 per mode for 24 cuts in that area. And then we had Barber Landscaping that was doing 20 at a cost of $20,000, $1,000 per. So it is our recommendation that we would go with Barber, the low bidder, on that as well. And so we'll be awarding that bid.
What's the length of that agreement?
It's 1 year with with renewables up to 3.
Is there an out clause?
Oh, yeah. Forest Service, they're gone.
With the beautification,
Yeah, oh, absolutely.
that may
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
change.
Yeah, it could,
Okay.
absolutely.
All right.
Yeah, it's a one-year agreement, effective immediately, because we don't have a contractor, on that side, but we do have an out.
Okay.
Yep, absolutely. Good, so that is, 77, amphitheater, manor side. We are also receiving bids right now for some electrical work in the park. This is relative to where we need receptacles during certain types of events that are in the park, as well as the expansion that we made last year for Christmas decorations in the park. We've received 2 of those 3 bids, so I'll be providing some additional information to you on that. We are coming to conclusion on our town manager search. You've got some work you're going to do tonight to wrap us up on that. But that's been a really good experience for us. And I just wanted to say thank you for your commitment to the process. Everyone on council was engaged in every step of that process. And kudos to you guys. You did remarkable work. You had a great slate of folks. And I think you're going to finish that up in good form. And then last but not least, just to let you know that we are working in the budget process at this point. Jennifer and I are at the stage of doing our revenue projections. Our budget requests by our employees have been received, and those are being entered into our system. We'll be finalizing a schedule to recommend to you for workshops and action on those, but we will certainly have that budget completely adopted before the end of June, either by special meetings or final reading at your last meeting in June. But we'll finish that on time. And this will be the first budget that you will receive as a recommended budget from a town manager. And so you may see a little different format to that that we've done in the past, but Jennifer and I are working on that side of it. Any questions?
Quick question. Do you know where we are on the FOIA policy update?
Yes, sir. I thought that we would be prepared to have that tonight. I reviewed the agenda for tonight and felt that that might not be an additional item for us to consider, so we'll be bringing that at the next meeting. Town attorney has provided everything to us as staff except for plugging in the cost items, and we're just, and the last piece for us was to look at what are the commercial costs for like copying and those types of things, and also surveying our general area of what those costs are. We're not going to be the highest by any regard of that, but we want to just make sure that we are covering generally our expense in meeting those requests.
Thank you, sir.
Yep.
All right. Any further questions for our interim town manager? Thank you, sir. Oh. Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir.
All right, moving on to old business. 3 ordinance items, second readings, discussion and approval of board composition ordinances 2026.002, 2026.003, and 2026.004.
Mr. Mayor?
I'll be looking for
Mr. Mayor, if it's...
unanimous consent.
Yep, absolutely. That's what I was going to say. So move.
Thank you. Unanimous consent to approve has been approved without objections. Thank you. Approval of all 3, sir. Ma'am. All right, I'll be looking for a motion to enter into executive session pursuant to 30-4-70. One item for the public and media personnel matter regarding the selection of a town manager.
Second.
Discussion? None. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor,
Council. I'll be looking for a motion to reconvene.
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none. Ms. Dershow is reconvening. All in favor signify by saying aye. I'm sorry. Aye. All right, council, following executive session, are there any items requiring a vote?
Got you. Yes, sir, I have one.
Yes, sir, Councilman McKendrick.
Mr. Mayor, it gives me great pleasure to make the following motion. I move that town council hire Mr. Doug Poland as the town of Blythewood manager effective June 1st of 2026, and would instruct the town attorney and the interim town manager to finalize the employment agreement with Mr. Poland under the terms as prescribed in executive session this evening.
Thank you, sir. Motion made. Looking for a second.
I second.
Seconded by both ladies, same time. Any further discussion?
Yeah, have discussion.
Councilman Brock.
Is this really the guy we want? Are we sure about this, guys?
He had to be one.
Are we sure?
Thank you.
Mr.
Thank you.
Mayor, Mr. Mayor, the only discussion I would have is I would like to welcome
Yeah, I'm about to
Mary
do-
as well, his wife, who's sitting with him in
Yep.
the audience. It's great to have you out
Yeah.
there. That's all I have, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, sir. Any final discussion? All right, I don't think I need a roll call vote, but I'm going to say signify by saying aye. Aye. Did y'all see all miles move, right? All right, so the ayes have it. Congratulations, sir, Mr. Doug Poland. Thank you, and to your wife, welcome to the town of Blythewood. We're excited. And lastly, before we go home, I want to tell each and every one of my colleagues here, thank you for this process. We worked through it together. That shows the town that we are united. We're a team moving forward, and we're looking forward to the future. With that being said, I'll be looking for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second. Thank you. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Good night, Blythewood.